Gaza's Nasser Hospital in the southern city of Khan Yunis has received the bodies of 15 Palestinians transferred as part of the ongoing ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. The exchange is conducted under a US-brokered arrangement that stipulates the return of 15 Palestinian bodies for every deceased Israeli handed over to Israeli authorities. The latest transfer marks another step in the continued implementation of the agreement amid a larger humanitarian and political framework. Footage from Nasser Hospital shows medical teams moving the bodies into the facility's morgue area, following strict procedural steps required for documentation and analysis. The transfers occurred under the supervision of medical personnel and staff from the International Committee of the Red Cross, whose vehicles were stationed outside the hospital complex during the handover. The hospital has become one of the central locations responsible for receiving and processing the bodies transferred from Israel. With each arrival, medical teams conduct examination, registration and evidence collection procedures before any identification efforts can begin. These steps are managed by a designated Health Ministry committee responsible for handling all incoming remains. Ahmed Daer, the head of that committee, explained the latest developments. Ahmed Daer said, "Today we received 15 bodies from the Israeli side through the International Committee of the Red Cross. This brings the total number of bodies that have arrived from the Israeli side to 330 so far. They are currently undergoing examination, documentation and evidence collection." According to Daer, these procedures are required for every body transferred under the deal. The process includes verifying physical details, recording identifying markers, photographing remains and collecting necessary forensic documentation. These steps ensure that the records remain consistent with Health Ministry standards and that families seeking information can rely on accurate, verified data. After the initial examinations, a second stage focuses on identification. Medical personnel and investigators work to match remains with missing person files submitted by families across Gaza. This process may involve reviewing dental records, physical characteristics and other forms of available documentation. In some cases, identification is straightforward. In others, families must be contacted to examine collected evidence or provide additional information. As the committee continues this work, bodies that are identified are subsequently released to their families once official confirmation is completed. Those that remain unidentified are held until relatives come forward or additional verification materials become available. Ahmed Daer provided updated figures on the identification work completed so far. Daer said 95 bodies have been identified and handed over to their families. The rest of the bodies are still awaiting identification by their families. The involvement of the International Committee of the Red Cross remains a key component in the transfer operations. Red Cross vehicles were positioned outside Nasser Hospital throughout the day, overseeing the logistical side of the exchange. The organisation's personnel routinely facilitate cross-border transfers of bodies, detainees and humanitarian shipments under internationally recognised protocols. Their presence ensures that each stage of the operation follows established humanitarian guidelines. The exchange operations are part of a broader series of steps agreed between Israel and Hamas. Under the terms of the current ceasefire framework, both sides have committed to return deceased individuals recovered during the conflict period. While the deal also includes arrangements for the release of some detainees, the current update concerns only the transfer of bodies. These exchanges typically occur in coordination zones monitored by the Red Cross. Once the bodies are transported from Israeli custody to Red Cross teams, they are moved to Gaza through designated access points. From there, they are delivered to hospitals authorised by the Health Ministry for intake and processing. Upon arrival at facilities such as Nasser Hospital, medical personnel immediately initiate the required sequence of procedures. The bodies are brought into the morgue, where initial temperature-controlled storage is prepared. Afterward, teams begin examination protocols, which include basic forensic assessment before adding each case to the official registry maintained by the Health Ministry. Officials say that the total number of bodies received since the start of the exchanges has now reached 330. This cumulative figure reflects multiple handovers conducted in previous days and weeks under the same ceasefire agreement. Nasser Hospital has indicated that these transfers place additional strain on already limited resources. Staff are working in continuous shifts to manage intake, documentation and family notifications. Despite the pressure, officials emphasise that the procedures must remain comprehensive to avoid gaps or misidentifications in the official record. Across Gaza, families continue to visit hospitals and designated centres to seek information regarding missing relatives. Each new handover draws families hoping for clarity about the fate of their loved ones. Health Ministry teams coordinate with relatives through an identification office, ensuring that the release of remains follows established verification protocols. The current transfer also aligns with the broader humanitarian objectives outlined in the ceasefire arrangement. The framework is intended to provide a mechanism for families on both sides to receive definitive information and, where possible, recover the remains of individuals killed during hostilities. While the broader political negotiations remain ongoing, the body exchange component is viewed as one of the more structured and regularly implemented aspects of the agreement. For hospitals involved in the process, the arrival of each group of bodies requires coordinated workflow adjustments. Morgue staff prepare storage capacity, forensic teams prepare examination spaces, and administrative units ensure that documentation flows in the correct sequence. These measures are designed to keep the process organised and to ensure accuracy in the farthest taken official record. The latest group of 15 bodies followed the same procedural chain. Medical teams at Nasser Hospital transferred each body into the morgue facility, photographed the remains and logged identifying information. Additional items transferred with the bodies, such as clothing or personal effects, were catalogued separately for potential use during identification. Officials confirm that the majority of the 330 total bodies received are still undergoing various stages of verification. In cases where no family members have yet come forward, the bodies remain in controlled storage, while investigators attempt to match available information with past reports of missing individuals. Outside the hospital, the presence of Red Cross vehicles highlights the continued involvement of the organisation in supervising transfer logistics. Their role includes confirming the number of bodies delivered, verifying accompanying documentation, and coordinating with Health Ministry representatives regarding the timing of each transfer. The Health Ministry Committee, headed by Ahmed Dare, remains responsible for overseeing all examination and documentation processes. The committee ensures that each body is registered, that procedures remain consistent with standards, and that families receive accurate information when identification is confirmed. The exchange of bodies remains an ongoing element of the ceasefire mechanism. Continued transfers are expected as part of the agreement's implementation. Hospitals and humanitarian organisations continue to prepare for additional arrivals as coordination between the parties proceeds. As of now, the focus at Nasser Hospital remains on the examination of the newly received 15 bodies and the continued identification work for the remainder of those previously transferred. Staff confirm that the process will continue in the same structured manner until all bodies have been identified and returned to their families or processed according to Health Ministry procedures. The latest transfer underscores the continuing humanitarian dimension of the ceasefire deal and the ongoing efforts to manage the return of bodies through established international and medical channels. The situation remains active, and further updates will depend on the pace of future transfers and identification work. This concludes the latest verified developments from Nasser Hospital regarding the ongoing body exchange process under the current ceasefire agreement.